is a correctional officer that is rapping like a drug dealer. That's the point in our culture that you can identify with you actually being who you say you are. Doesn't matter. That's the point where if it sounds good, they're fine with it for a short period of time. You can tell her over it now, but they went for it.
Well, you could look at Rick and see he's an unattractive man, so having a baby by a cold girl isn't far-fetched for him.
50, who own your masters? Who own your masters? I buy your masters. You better shut up. I will buy your masters. No, I didn't know that they say I was the only person that fucked 50 Cent up. I ain't know that.
Well, gunplay, we had a little run-in with gunplay. Yeah.
I mean, that's the street dude.
Well, gunplay, the way you can ask him how that one went.
Would you ever make good with Rick Ross? Is that a possible fix?
I don't have anything in business that we would be doing that makes sense. If I was chasing him, I would have got him by now, you know.
Is there anything about Ross and his career that you'd have any respect for?
Oh, no, there's nothing there. I never wanted to work with him. You know, I understand from a perspective of someone who's just listening to what it sounds like.
Hey, I mean, he's a great rapper.
But does it matter that he's a correctional? Does that ever matter? Does it matter? Even when artists, look at the irony of the artists that come under.
So Meek.
Right.
Wale.
Prison reform.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the wrongfully convicted and wrongfully treated people in the prison system.
You attacking Rick Ross.
Is it me attacking Rick Ross or is it Rick Ross attacking me? Why ignore it when I could destroy him and create a portfolio of dead bodies that indicate to artists it's not cool to try and compete when you're not ready?
But you haven't destroyed Rick Ross's career.
What was Rick Ross' last album? Triple C's. You know how many copies the record sold?
No.
4,000 copies. What is destroyed? Because you went to the gym the first few days and the coach called you champ, don't mean you ready to fight Floyd Mayweather. I'm practically the Lord of War as far as hip-hop is concerned.
Is it common knowledge that you mow your own lawn?
I think everybody in Fayetteville, they kind of know when the weather's right and they see that big tractor out there.
You got the tractor? You're mowing your lawn. Like a John Deere or something like that?
One time for John Deere.
Look at it. What kind of rich cut his own grass? Why you out there cutting your own grass?
Got the one with the radio, the AC in it. I tinted the windows.
How many acres you mowing?
Man, I'm not even sure now. I believe close to 400. When I go out and mow the lawn, I had a homies with me too.
You're trying to save money, nigga? You don't want to pay for the lawn to get cut, huh? The AC broken in the...
So we got a bunch of other smaller tractors. So when they see the big one out, they know that's the boss.
Dude, that's the friendship I aspire to have.
No, that's the
all
friendship.
Your homies on the weekend, like, yo, what y'all?
Yeah, let's cut the grass. No, that's some of the coolest shit ever.
Rick Ross walked onto the Joe and Jada podcast, held up a diamond ring worth $1 million, and said he'd love to smack 50 Cent with it. That was the comment, and the way it actually happened makes it even better. Fat Joe was in the middle of a point about older rappers who had lost their momentum. General talk, nobody specific. And Ross jumped in with 50 Cent's name unprompted. Joe immediately tried to pull him back. Said that's not who he was talking about, told Ross he was reaching, told him he was creating something that wasn't there. Ross kept going anyway. Held up the ring, said imagine smacking him with $1 million middle finger. Joe tried again to redirect. Didn't work. Then Ross pivoted and started going at Uncle Murda, mocking his appearance, making jokes about his complexion on live camera. So, in one podcast appearance, Ross had managed to throw unprompted shots at 50 Cent, drag Uncle Murda into it, and turn Fat Joe's general point into a specific beef that nobody asked for. That clip was already spreading before the episode was done. Now, to understand why this hit the way it did, you need the quick history. Ross and 50 have been at each other since around 2008, when 50 exposed Ross's past as a corrections officer. A fact Ross had been hiding behind a drug dealer persona for years. Since then, it's been diss tracks, lawsuits, social media trolling, and a back and forth that has outlasted albums, label deals, and entire streaming eras. The dynamic has always been the same. 50 treats it like entertainment, and Ross keeps throwing punches trying to get a reaction. But here's where the Joe Jada moment gets more complicated, because Ross wasn't just throwing shots at 50. He was doing it while his tour was already taking heat. Fans had been pointing out for weeks that Ross's upcoming dates weren't selling the way you'd expect from someone of his profile. Open sections at venues, promoters running buy one, get one 50% off deals just to fill seats. In hip-hop, your ticket numbers are part of your credibility the same as your streaming numbers. When your shows aren't moving and you're simultaneously on a podcast joking about slapping 50 Cent, people start connecting those two things very quickly. And then there were the Drake comments. Around the same stretch, Ross made statements suggesting Drake wasn't operating on his level artistically, questioning whether Drake's numbers reflected genuine cultural impact. Those comments landed in a specific way because Drake remains one of the most commercially dominant artists in the history of the genre. Saying his numbers aren't real while your own tour is discounting tickets was always going to create contrast that fans and critics would notice. So by the time the Joe and Jada clip went viral, Ross had 3 separate conversations running at once: the 50 Cent ring comment, the Drake criticism, and the empty seat narrative. And all 3 were pointing in the same direction, that he was generating press through controversy rather than through the music itself. 50 Cent saw all of it and responded the way he almost always does: publicly, casually, with maximum damage. He went on social media and wrote that he'd heard Ross was doing buy one, get one 50% off because nobody wanted to come to his shows. Said maybe he should buy the remaining tickets himself just to make sure there were more empty seats. Then addressed the Drake situation by calling it a bitter, washed-up career crying for attention and help. Signed off saying he needed to get back to work before he got carried away by this fool, laughing emoji at the end. The framing was everything. 50 didn't match Ross's energy with anger, he matched it with amusement, treating the whole thing like a minor inconvenience while he was in the middle of real work. That's a specific kind of power move. When you respond to someone like their background noise rather than a genuine threat, you're telling the audience exactly how seriously you're taking the situation. The internet clocked it immediately. Comments flooded in saying Ross probably woke up happy just because 50 finally acknowledged him. Because that's been the running joke in this beef for years. Ross needs 50's attention more than 50 needs his. But 50 wasn't the only one who responded. Tony Yayo, who's been in 50's corner since the G-Unit days, jumped in to address the podcast clip directly. He called out what was obvious to anyone watching, that Ross absolutely said 50's name unprompted and then tried to act like he didn't. Tony Yayo has always been the one in the crew who says what 50 doesn't need to bother saying directly, and he fulfilled that role perfectly here. Uncle Murda also had something to say after Ross mocked him on camera. He brought up what everyone in the culture already knew, the Canada incident, where footage exists of Ross allegedly running from a confrontation. He wasn't saying anything new, but repeating it in this moment, while Ross was out here talking about slapping people with million-dollar rings, made the contrast hit harder. He also referenced the BET Awards backstage situation, a story that's been floating in hip-hop circles for years about Ross's demeanor being very different from his public persona when real tension was present. The buy one, get one ticket story picked up additional fuel after all of this because it wasn't a footnote anymore. It became part of the full picture people were building of Ross in this stretch, a man whose shows weren't selling the way they should, who was taking shots at 50 Cent, Drake, and Uncle Murda in the same week, who tried to walk back a comment the entire internet had already heard, and who was now catching return fire from multiple directions at the same time. Some people gave Ross credit for having energy and being willing to say what he thinks. Others felt the whole thing revealed a gap between the image and the reality. There's a version of Rick Ross, the biggest boss energy, the Maybach music branding, the car washes and Wingstop franchises, and genuine business moves that still commands real respect in the culture. But the version that shows up on a podcast and reaches for someone else's name unprompted, then acts like he wasn't talking about them, doesn't match that image. 50 Cent doesn't need this beef to stay relevant. His final lap tour grossed 9 figures across over 100 cities. His TV empire, Power, Raising Kanan, BMF, is still running. He was on that podcast that same week promoting something real. Ross, by contrast, needed the headlines that came from this moment in a way that 50 simply did not. And the internet understood that power dynamic clearly. Whether Ross fires back again or lets this one breathe, the pattern is already established. This beef has outlasted everything thrown at it for nearly 20 years. Every few months, something reignites it, the cycle runs, and the internet shows up every single time. This time around, 50 got the laugh. Tony Yayo got his shots in. Uncle Murda is in his feelings. And Ross is out here with a $1 million ring he very publicly wanted to use on someone he very publicly claimed he wasn't thinking about. The internet saw it. Fat Joe saw it. Jada saw it. 50 Cent definitely saw it. At the end of the day, this whole situation comes down to one question. Was Rick Ross genuinely speaking his mind, or was this another attempt to stay in the headlines by attaching himself to names that guarantee attention? Because whether you agree with Ross or not, the timing is impossible to ignore. The 50 Cent comments, the Drake criticism, the ticket sale conversations, and the responses from Tony Yayo and Uncle Murda all collided into one viral moment that kept the internet talking. One thing is certain. Nearly 20 years later, the Ross and 50 Cent rivalry still knows how to dominate hip-hop conversations. Every time it looks finished, something pulls it right back into the spotlight. And somehow, fans keep showing up to watch the next chapter unfold. But now, I want to hear from you. Did Rick Ross cross the line with the $1 million ring comment, or was it just harmless trash talk being blown out of proportion? And when it comes to this latest round, who do you think came out on top, Rick Ross or 50 Cent? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.